Good afternoon, Graham.
Hi, Andrew. How are you going?
I'm not too bad. Seems that I'm not rocking so much any longer.
Yeah,
so,
terra firma.
Terra firma. Anyway, so good to be back in this nice sunshine in Queensland. As I say, I still don't know how you do this weather, but anyway, okay. Today, what I want to do is I'd like to talk to you a little bit about this sort of emergence of having identity in the cloud and how do we overcome that problem. And one of the particular things I'd like to do is just get a feel for. I've got my internal IT people are talking to me about they want us to start thinking about moving our applications to the Microsoft Azure Cloud, and how do we overcome that issue, because obviously all our identity information is actually sitting on our Active Directory, sitting within the network.
So yes, okay, that's a very good point.
So we explore that?
Yeah, I mean, cloud identity it's a whole new bag. Okay, it's a seismic shift in identity management. As you're moving information into the cloud, you need to, of course, have access to your identities so that you can authenticate your users to cloud applications and things like that. And there's lots of different solutions in that space. The one you mentioned is this particular solution, and that's the Microsoft one. And Microsoft has done a very good job of providing a nice, warm and cozy solution for customers who are using Microsoft applications.
And that presumably that will be like a pure solution, so where a customer is only Microsoft focused, is it, or could be rerunning other apps?
Yes, they could, but it's primarily Microsoft, definitely at the moment. Of course, the Office 365 was the main application suite that they put together in that space. The ability to have your customers use those applications in the cloud is very important to the strategy for Microsoft. And what they've done is totally revamped the Active Directory solution, and now called the Azure Active Directory, in order to support the cloud applications.
And is that exactly the same as Active Directory on premises? I mean,
no, it's not. No, it's quite a different product. The core is the same, but the interfaces to it are totally different. So, for instance, you've got a new way of talking to an Azure AD.
So so we don't use like everyone else uses LDAP. It doesn't use LDAP at all.
No. Okay. And there is a nice suite of interface options there in terms of actually interrogating your directory and getting information back. It's called the Graph API. It's not graph technology, but it's called Graph API, and you use that very high-level language in order to communicate with your directory now.
Okay, and API stands for?
Application Programmable Interface.
Ah, okay, great.
Now,
good.
In terms of the applications that are supported, as I mentioned, Office 365, no problem. You can, of course, take your on-premise applications, and with the Graph API, you can enable them to use the Azure Active Directory and move them into the cloud, into the Microsoft Cloud properly. The other nice thing about the solution, well, it's good and bad, is the DirSync product, which allows you to synchronize any changes you make in your Active Directory on-premise to the Azure AD in the cloud. That happens automatically in the background.
So as long as I'm already synchronizing and integrating information, let's say from my HR system on-premises into my local on-premises Active Directory using this directory sync product, I can synchronize from my on-premises Active Directory into my Azure Active Directory,
your cloud
Active Directory server. Right. Okay. All right. So now, but how do I now overcome this problem of, well, okay, I've got people leaving. Remember, we had that conversation around deprovisioning. So now my HR will deprovision my corporate AD. Well, how does that? How does that then happen? So
they get taken out of your on-premise AD. DirSync takes it out of AD. The Azure
how does
AD.
Okay, but I can understand how you can sync up to AD, so to Azure AD. But how does Azure AD know that the person's been?
Because DirSync will take that person out of Azure AD once they're deleted from AD on-premise.
So it's got some sort of delta change.
Absolutely,
a change log of some sort.
Now, one of the problems is that basically everything from your AD goes into the cloud. You can't cherry pick at the minute what information you want to go into Azure AD.
So what you're saying is there's like a complete refresh from my on-premises Active Directory into the cloud rather than...
It's not a complete refresh. You said it is done on a delta.
Sync. Okay,
it is a complete sync. Yeah.
Right, okay.
The other nice thing that, a couple of other things that Microsoft has done right. One is the SSO solution.
Okay.
So you can use ADFS the Active Directory
Federation server.
Federation server solution in order to provide an SSO functionality, so that if somebody on premise wants to access cloud applications, there's no additional logons.
Okay, great.
And the third thing they've done very nicely is 2FA, the second factor authentication.
Two-factor authentication, right? Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that basically you can have the Azure AD solution actually send you a message to your phone, and you can use that as your second device.
Okay.
So there's some very nice features
And
within the Microsoft
okay.
solution.
Now, can you also do policy-based access control? Is that there? I can do using things like XACML? Is that supported as well?
That's not supported natively. You
Right.
need an additional third-party product to provide that.
Okay. Now, one interesting thing across the industry, and this is probably the subject of a separate ICA cogitation, I suspect, but the rest of the industry for this sort of provisioning, if you like, into the cloud, have adopted this standard SCIM, which seems to be all the rage. I mean, I see Amazon and Cisco, a lot of the other big cloud vendors are using SCIM. Is Microsoft planning to support the SCIM standard?
At the moment, that's not part of the AD Azure solution. You're quite right. It would be a good topic for another ICA Cogitations.
Graham, thank you very much indeed.
Super.
And thank you very much indeed for having me up here in your beautiful Queensland.
Sounds good. Have a good flight back.
My pleasure. Bye.